Welcome to Relationship Ironies of the World We Live in. Most relationships don't break because of one big moment, they break because of everything that was never said. This is a mini podcast where we talk about quiet contradictions, the unspoken expectations, and the invisible patterns that shape our relationships, often without us even realizing it. I'm Swati Mukherjee. I'm a relationship coach, and in this mini podcast, I want to slow things down a little and look at some of the ironies that show up again and again in this modern relationships. One of the biggest relationship ironies of the world we live in is this. We don't really understand ourselves, yet we fully expect our partner to understand our unspoken needs. And when they don't, we feel hurt, frustrated, disconnected. We expect mind reading, not communication. In relationships, we often expect our partner to just know us, to know what we are feeling, to know what we need, to know why we are upset. But here's the part we rarely admit. Most of the time, we don't even understand ourselves. We feel something, react to it, and then expect the other person to decode it perfectly. I've seen this everywhere with friends, with clients, honestly, even in my own life at different points. People saying things like, if they really love me, they would know. I shouldn't have to explain this. Why do I always have to say everything? But when I gently ask, what exactly are you expecting them to know? There's often silence. Because the truth is, we haven't slowed down enough to understand it ourselves. What happens instead is this: small, everyday disappointments pile up. Unspoken expectations turn into quiet resentments. And we keep carrying it all without naming it. Sometimes we don't even know why something is triggering us. We just know that it is. And here's something important: you can't outsource self awareness to your partner. Most of us are unclear about our own needs, triggers, boundaries, and emotional patterns. Yet we expect clarity, consistency, and emotional intelligence from the person sitting across from us. I want to share a story from my work. This is the story of one of my clients, and I was speaking with a couple who were right on the edge of separation. From outside, nothing looked dramatically wrong. No big betrayals, no single explosive incident. The man genuinely had no idea that there was a serious problem until very recently. From his perspective, things were mostly fine. Yes, they argued more than before, but couples fight, right? They, that felt normal to him. And then one day during a fight over something small, something almost ridiculous, like dishes left in the sink, his partner said she wanted a divorce. He didn't take it seriously at first. He thought it was all said in anger. But after that moment, everything shifted. And he was left confused, trying to understand how they had landed there. When I listened to her side, a very different story emerged. For years, she had been carrying the weight of the relationship, managing the house, taking care of endless chores, mentally tracking everything. She asked for help sometimes. She delegated a little, but it never really changed. The conversation stayed on the surface, the resentment stayed unspoken, the emotional load stayed invisible. So fights kept happening, and because they happened, fights, they were never taken seriously. Until one day she was done. This is something we see so often. One partner quietly overfunctions, the other doesn't fully register the cost of it. And both feel misunderstood in completely different ways. And here's where the deeper irony shows up because we are going out of our way to do something nice for our partner. Often, without saying anything, we expect them to do the emotional work, to ask the right questions, to guess correctly, to fix what feels off, all while we stay disconnected from ourselves. It all starts with us. When we understand ourselves better, we become clearer about what we actually want. There's less guessing, less confusion. We can communicate our expectations without hesitation. We can set boundaries without guilt. And when something feels off, we can name it. Not as a vague sense of discomfort, but something specific we can express. We also teach people how to treat us by the way we treat ourselves. When we constantly place ourselves second, others slowly learn to do the same. Not because they're unkind, but because that becomes the normal dynamic. But when we are clear about our needs, when we prioritize ourselves, when we are honest about how we expect to be treated, people respond to that clarity. And here's another irony. Movies and love stories have taught us that sacrificing everything for someone else is what proves love. That giving more, bending more, disappearing more makes us more valuable. But often the opposite happens. When we are sacrificing everything for someone else, we slowly lose our sense of self. And with it, our value in the relationship. We don't notice it happening. It feels gradual, almost invisible. Until one day, something breaks. We haven't asked ourselves, what am I actually feeling right now? What do I need? Is this a real need or is this an old wound speaking? We demand effort from our partner while negotiating our own effort. Healthy relationships don't work because one person understands everything instinctively. They work because both people are willing to understand themselves first. Clarity creates connection. Confusion creates conflict. When we don't do the inner work, we don't just misunderstand ourselves. We misunderstand our partner too. So maybe the real question isn't, why doesn't my partner understand me? The more you own your own truth, the less of a maze you become for the person trying to love you. And that's one relationship irony worth sitting with.